Chris Robertshaw, Minister Social Care, good afternoon. This is to look at the social policy debate consultation results, and you'll recall that we had a major debate during the summer to look at our social policy issues. Why did we do that? Well, our system, as you will recall, is very similar to that of the UK, and that the UK has stated that its system is not fit for purpose. For our part, we face very significant budgetary challenges, but it was very, very important from the beginning, from the outset, that we didn't look at this whole review from the point of view of cutting costs, but to adopt a new set of principles for our social policy. And that essentially was the core, the essence of our consultation, because we identified the principal issues. But you'll see from this first slide that we were delighted with the response. We had 1,200 responses, and within that we actually had 2,500 individual comments, which were not part of the question response process, but what people really felt and thought. So what I'd like to do is focus on our principles, and there are three overarching fundamental principles which are, as it were, built into the DNA of this administration. The first being, obviously, protect the vulnerable. That's one of the three overarching government principles, and therefore that appears first. A second terribly important principle as we go through this enormous period of change has got to be the issue of fairness, and we have to attach that principle to everything that we do. And it's interesting to note that although we didn't identify that particularly within the consultation, nonetheless it was in the top 5 of the consultation comments. It came in at number 4. So even though we didn't address it directly, we had the general public identifying it as a key issue. And then the third overarching principle, that of rebalancing rights and responsibilities. It's a big subject in just a few words, but we come from a society over the last few decades that has quite rightly identified the issue of rights and entitlements, but it's perhaps past time that we need to balance that off with the identification of an individual's responsibilities. So that very much lives within the overarching 3 top principles. What I'd now like to do is look at the, if you like, the working principles, of which there are 6. And the first one is better targeting of scarce public funds towards those in greatest need. And I think it's fascinating to see here that the public in their response either agreed or strongly agreed with that principle to the tune of 92.6% of the population. The next working principle is to end the assumption of universality in some benefits through the greater use of means and needs testing. And here again, we had 86.9% of the public either agree or strongly agree that this was something that they approved of. And we were down to a 2% disagreement, strongly disagreement, and those who disagreed were around about 10%. So again, strong public support for the concept of ending universality through needs and means testing. And it's important to stress there that we're talking about means and needs, not just means testing. We got 91.9% of the respondents who either agreed or strongly agreed with the importance of progressively dismantling the benefit traps and cliff edge issues. And this is important because it's perceived in the public rightly that once somebody, as it were, is embraced by the benefits system, it gets difficult to get out of it. And therefore the general public is saying, yes, we get the concept of trying to avoid the benefit traps and the cliff edge. 96.8%, and here we're getting close to 100% here, either agreed or strongly agreed with the concept of encouraging greater self-sufficiency. And that links very much into the last one, which was the cliff edge concept, this principle of being trapped. So it's not only incumbent upon us to avoid the cliff edge and the benefits trap, but also to provide opportunities and incentives for people to become more self-sufficient. And that in turn links with the point I made earlier about balancing rights and responsibilities off. So you see these principles are all, these working principles are all linked together. 96.8, we're trying to get to 100% here, 96.8% of the respondents either agreed or strongly agreed that there needed to be alternative approaches to giving more assistance other than financial. And again, that links with the last two slides in the sense that it isn't, in giving people support and encouragement, it isn't just about money. It's about being able to say to individuals, how can we help you move from a supported position to one of self-sufficiency? It's not just about money. It's about other services. 97.4% of people believe that we should be applying stricter controls to individuals where it's perceived that support is being received in an inappropriate way, and that they should be facing penalties if in fact they should not be receiving them. So strong support for that. What is interesting about the last three is you'll see that in the last three, and they're all linked together, the strongly agreed element in the blue is very, very high indeed. We're way over the 50% on that alone. So very, very strong support. You remember at the beginning that I talked about the comments, the 2,500 comments. We've listed there the top 5 issues which people raised themselves, and they were social housing, benefits, means testing, the unemployed, in particular the young, and single parents. Those are the things which animated people to make particular comments, and we will be taking all this into account. We also asked about pace of change, and that's a much more ambivalent response. A significant proportion said that they thought we were being too slow, but in our defence, I think it's important to say that we are trying to make profound changes to our system here. We're trying to re-engineer our benefits and social system, and that you don't do that in a rush, or you do it in a rush at your peril. And therefore, although some people felt that we were, quite a significant number felt we were going too slowly, I think it is important that we get it right. Imperative, in fact. However, it has to be said that it's a lot of new ground we're breaking here, and if we do, in the process of developing these changes, make a mistake en route, we will do everything we possibly can, as quickly as we possibly can, to put it right. And then, of course, we know that all this information, this response to the principles which we laid out for consideration, which we consider so important, will be gathered together and assembled so that it influences the debate, the major debate in December in Tynwald. It might be said, looking at that, well, you know, the response is so positive, so supportive, that it must be in some way biased. Well, I can tell you that we went out of our way to seek opinion from all sources of our community. It wasn't veered towards a particular group or subgroup. And we had a series of presentations from all sectors of the community, the older, younger, business community, the third sector, general public, and what you might call the political cognoscenti, I suppose. So we did try to seek out responses from all quarters.